The last train. Leo always hated taking it, but tonight, a late project meeting had sealed his fate. The fluorescent lights of the subway car hummed a dreary, familiar tune, casting a pallid glow on the handful of other passengers scattered like forgotten luggage. Most were already lost to the lull of their phones or the heavy drag of exhaustion. Leo leaned his head against the cool glass, the rhythmic rumble of the train a familiar, if unwelcome, lullaby. He watched the city lights blur into streaks, each station a brief illuminated pause in the monotonous journey through the city's underbelly. Park Street, Downtown Crossing, Washington. Each one a step closer to home, to blissful oblivion in his own bed. His eyelids grew heavy. The sway of the train, the distant screech of metal on metal, the muffled announcements, it was all a hypnotic drone. He must have drifted off. A sudden, violent lurch threw him forward, his hand instinctively shooting out to brace against the seat in front. The train, with a protesting groan of metal, shuddered to a dead stop. The humming lights flickered erratically, bathing the car in strobing, sickly green before plunging it into near-total darkness. Only the faint, ghostly green of the emergency strips along the floor offered any illumination. Annoyance pricked at Leo first. "Great," he muttered, rubbing his eyes. Probably a power issue, or some idiot on the tracks. He expected the driver's voice to crackle over the intercom any second with a platitude-filled apology, but no announcement came. Instead, a silence began to settle. Not just quiet, but a profound, unnatural stillness. The usual cacophony of the tunnels, the distant rumble of other trains, the drip of water, the scuttling of unseen vermin, the low thrum of the city breathing above. All of it was gone, utterly, completely absent. It was as if the world, outside their metal tube, had simply ceased to exist. Leo fumbled for his phone. No signal, of course. He looked around. The other passengers, dim silhouettes in the gloom, were stirring, muttering. "What's going on?" A woman's voice quavered from the other end of the car. "Probably just a signal fault," a man replied, his voice trying for confidence but betraying a nervous edge. Minutes stretched, each one feeling like an eternity in the oppressive dark. The emergency strips seemed to dim further, the green light becoming more spectral, less reassuring. Leo could hear his own heartbeat thudding in his ears, a frantic drum against the suffocating silence. He strained his ears, listening for anything. A rat, a drip, even the whine of the emergency brakes. Nothing. It was a vacuum, a void that seemed to absorb sound. "Hello?" he called out, his voice sounding small, swallowed by the stillness. There was no echo, just his word, offered to the darkness and then nothing. A cold dread, sharp and icy, began to creep up his spine. This wasn't normal. He'd been stuck on trains before, but never like this. Never this. Dead. He thought about the emergency, Dr. Release, the thought of stepping out into the pitch-black tunnel onto the tracks. The image of what might be lurking in that absolute darkness, unseen, unheard, froze him to his seat. Then came the first sound from outside. Tap. A single, soft, deliberate tap on the window beside him. Leo flinched, his head whipping towards the sound. He saw nothing but his own pale, wide-eyed reflection staring back from the grimy glass, superimposed over the inky black of the tunnel. He held his breath, listening. Scrap! It was a light sound, like a fingernail, or something much longer, being drawn slowly across the exterior of the window, methodical, unhurried. Leo's breath hitched. His skin crawled. He could feel the hairs on his arms standing on end. Every primal instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, but there was nowhere to go. He forced himself to look, to peer through the dirt and his own reflection into the tunnel, beyond. For a long moment there was only blackness. Then a shape. Indistinct at first, a mere suggestion of form in the absolute dark, but it was there. Tall, impossibly thin. It seemed to absorb the faint emergency light, making the darkness. Round it even deeper, it was utterly still, a statue carved from shadow, and Leo felt with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that it was looking right at him. The scraping started again, lower down on the door this time, more insistent. A dry, rasping sound, like old bones being dragged across metal. One of the women at the other end of the car let out a small choked whimper. The man who had spoken earlier was silent now. Leo couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. He could only stare at the spot on the window where the thin shadow thing stood, its presence a palpable weight against the glass, the scraping sounds an intimate, terrifying serenade. He closed his eyes, a silent prayer forming on his lips, a desperate plea for the lights, for movement, for anything but this. And then, as suddenly as it had died, the power surged back. The main lights blazed to life with a searing intensity, making Leo cry out and shield his eyes. The familiar hum of the train's systems vibrated through the floor. With a pneumatic hiss and a slight jolt, the train began to move. Leo blinked. Against the sudden brightness, his heart still hammering. He looked wildly around. The other passengers were equally dazed, their faces pale and shocked. He pressed his face to the window. The tunnel walls were rushing past, solid and real. There was no sign of the thin figure, no trace of anything having been there. Had he imagined it? The darkness, the silence, the fear. Had it all been a collective hallucination? The train pulled into the next station, Kenmore. The platform was brightly lit, clean, and utterly eerily empty. No commuters waiting, no station attendant, no one. Just rows of vacant benches and pristine tiled walls. One by one, the other passengers, shaken but desperate to escape the confines of the car, stumbled out onto the deserted platform. Leo hesitated, a knot of unease tightening in his chest. This wasn't right either. He forced his legs to move, stepping out onto the platform, the air strangely cold. He took a few steps, then paused, a sudden, inexplicable urge making him turn back to look at the train car he had just vacated. It was empty, now waiting. As he watched, from the inside of the window he had been sitting next to, came a single, soft, deliberate tap.